Can an independent workers' federation thrive in South Africa? Will the labor movement ever unite? What will it take for all South African workers to be unionized? And how will the new workers' federation impact the balance of forces within the labor movement? What time is it? It's question time. Welcome to Question Time. My name is Mpho Tsedu. May Day is celebrated internationally in honor of workers of the world. Although messages of unity are delivered from all quarters every year, in South Africa a new addition has been made to the already fractured labor movement. In marking the National Workers' Day, today on Question Time we analyze the state of workers' unity and the labor movement in general. We are live. Therefore, you can call us and air your views. The numbers to dial is 089-1104-210. Our Twitter handle at QuestionTime24. My guest today, Mamokgethi Molopyane. She's a Labour Analyst. And from our C Point studios, Terry Bell, who is also a Labour Analyst, joined us there. May I remind you that the numbers to dial is 089-1104-210 or at QuestionTime24. Let's talk about this matter, May Day. Mamokgethi, welcome. Terry, welcome to Question Time. Thank you very much for joining us, rather.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mpho.
One thing that I couldn't let pass was the fact that you have this Workers' Day where every year unions go out, they talk about the workers must be united, we must be united. 75% of South African workforce is not unionized. How does that impact on the unity of workers?
Well, Mpho, one of the things that we have come to see in South Africa is the fact that trade unions or organized workers' movement have limited themselves to the already captured, so to speak, already organized workers, and they are not in their initiatives, in their movement for recruitment. They are not trying to go past what they have already organized, and therein lies the challenge. I call it the comfort of the familiar. They are already used to the areas in which they recruit, so they no longer go and seek out other areas to expand how to recruit new members. But more importantly, it speaks volumes of the workers who are out there, because if 75% of them are not unionized, does therefore that mean the unions around do not speak their language, do not represent them and their views, and therefore they have no interest in joining them?
Terry?
Well, I can see that point. I mean, the thing is about this is that we had, even 3 to 4 years ago, we actually had about 30% of workers in the formal sector were actually unionized. It's fallen off. It's fallen down to 24, 25, maybe even 26%, but no more than that. And that, I think, is a reflection of exactly what the previous analyst was saying. The point is that unions have not done their job of recruiting, have not done their jobs of getting out there and servicing members that already exist. There's also the fracture, the political fracture that has now manifested itself with the breakaway and the expulsion, for example, of the National Union of Metal Workers, NUMSA, the expulsion of the former General Secretary of COSATU. This whole idea of the ongoing alliance with the ANC in government, which happens to be the largest employer in the land. So that's another factor. And I think what we have seen is a lot of workers who've fallen by the wayside out of unions when being previously unionized because of disgruntlement with what has been going on about lack of service, but also because of the political problems that have been manifest in recent times. So yes, the unions have not, I think, done their jobs adequately. Yes, the unions are certainly divided. I think at the moment, if we wanted to categorize it, we'd say everything's in a state of flux and there's a great degree of instability. I don't blame anyone. I think a collective noun I came across, I thought of thinking of unions in South Africa at the moment, is a confusion of unions.
Well, but you have here a labor federation, COSATU, that has for years thrived on the political injustices whether it be, and I mean, currently if you look, COSATU has existed for longer in a democratic South Africa than they did in apartheid South Africa, right? But the fact that the political injustices were there, and I guess it helped them to really thrive. Is it losing momentum?
It has, to an extent, and I think they would be wrong to mislead themselves in arguing that they haven't changed. After all, the workplace we organize in at this moment has changed. The globalization is impacting on our economy. The economic conditions also have changed, and therefore, to say you are not impacted, I think it would be misleading to themselves as the leaders elected, but also to their members. So it is not surprising that now they are facing newer challenges of how to locate the new members and their current workers within an ever-changing workplace. And by that I mean, we know the working hours at times are overtime completely being redefined, and work is being redefined. And somehow, not just COSATU by the way, most unions and organized workers have found themselves struggling to adapt, and they've struggled to reinvent their tools of what defines them as trade unions, and that is why they are found wanting at the moment.
Found wanting, Terry?
Definitely. I think what we have lost is the great basis of shop floor democracy. This has been lost to bureaucratization of the unions. They have lost that ability to have the definite feedback, to be based from the bottom up. Now, this is being promised all the time. This is what we're going to have, a truly democratic, independent. We hope that will be the case. But also at the same time, the unions have not come to terms with the 21st century. This is the digital age. It's going to have an incredible impact, not just on unions, but on communities as a whole. Anyone who sells their labor in order to survive is threatened now by robotics and by the digital age, by mechanization, and it's something we need to come to terms with. I mean, this sort of thing can either liberate all of humanity or basically end up with a vast, even vaster army of unemployed people who'll be unemployed forever.
Vincent, you're in Rustenburg. Welcome. Okay, we seem to have lost Vincent there. Vincent? Vincent, we have lost you there. The numbers to dial 089-110-4210, 089-110-4210, and our Twitter handle at question time 24. Now, you also have indeed this new kid on the block, which comes at a time when everybody says the workers must unite.
Absolutely, and it's very telling, first of all, that behind the voice of unity that all the federations, all union leaders are talking about, that workers must move forward as a collective. Somehow, even within that voice, there's a cracked open that has led to what is now become a new federation that is established. And even though, and my question tends to be, it is long being punted. Zolinzi Mavavi has long spoken about it and talk about whether he will start this new federation, but it has not gained momentum. And we know that in everyday life, if you are going to repeat time and again that you are going to do something and do not do it, over time people get tired and really end up saying, but you have said this so many times. And so up until we see, and that's how the dynamics of South Africa's workers are. It does not necessarily mean they will leave or they have left now, but up until they see the new federation up and running, only then can we tell if it has had an impact on the existing COSATU, NACTU and FEDUSA and so forth.
Lefa, you are in Potchefstroom.
I'm in Potchefstroom.
Welcome.
Thank you, Mpho.
You're welcome.
And then thank you, Mamokgethi. I hope these union leaders, they can listen to a bit. Maybe we will have unions who are really going to represent the workers, Mamokgethi. Mpho,
yes.
Let me tell you one thing. I'm working for government,
yes.
And we don't have faith anymore in unions, because where I'm working, people, they resort now to labor lawyers rather than unions, because the union representative or leaders, their duty is only to fill up their pockets, because they will make us think they are perhaps fighting for the workers, but what they are doing is making settlement for themselves with employers. So we don't have trust anymore, I'm telling you, for the union.
I see. Thank you very much, Lefadin Ikageng.
And I'll comment on that.
Yes.
It speaks to what Terry had said earlier, that unions and union leadership has become so bureaucratized that they have removed themselves from the everyday issues of workers. And that is why, on average, the time we spend on the ground with workers, whether you are interviewing them or engaging them, they will tell you what your caller has said, that it is better I go and find a labor lawyer representing me, even when I have a union membership and I can go to my union leaders, because they no longer relate to the issues that are affecting me. In other words, they are sitting at their offices and are no longer coming down to the workers at the shop floor, at shafts, at factories, to engage the workers about the issues that affect them. And that speaks of a disconnect between those at the top and the workers they represent.
Johannes, you are in Gauteng. Welcome.
Okay.
Welcome, Johannes.
My name is Johannes.
Yes.
I hear you. Union.
Yes.
And then what about retail?
Retail or retail?
Yeah.
Maybe tlhalosa hanyane fela hore ke eng mathata le na ke a mantsi thata mo leng hore di union a di le thuso or beng?
Always.
Oh, okay. All right, thank you. Okay, no, I hear you very well, Johannes. Terry, Johannes, they're raising, well, you can understand Sesotho anyway, but for the benefit of our viewers, the viewer there saying, there's so much concentration on the mine workers and other sectors. What about the retail workers?
The point is the concentration is usually the media that is concentrating on these specific issues, mainly because of what happened, particularly Marikana, and also because the mines still are a large section and a section that employs a lot of workers and that has historically been militant, certainly since the 1980s. So that's why you have that sort of situation. I agree with Mamokgethi about the whole thing of we both seem to be on the same page regarding the lack of shop floor democracy. But at this stage, because of the situation, the global situation regarding work, mechanization, etc., we actually need to look again towards organizing in a democratic way, not only among the unions themselves, but as began in the early 1980s, within the communities, those without work who happen to be part and parcel of union members in work. Unions and communities need to come together because we face a very difficult time, not just in South Africa. This is actually a global problem. Okay. It's a global economic crisis, and it's one that we have to deal with and not deal with things in the old way. The old ways are gone. We're in a new 21st century, and the unions have got to think about that as well as business, because if they carry on in this way, we will end up with fewer and fewer workers, fewer and fewer pay packets, fewer and fewer amounts of money that can be spent, and therefore business itself will suffer.
Okay, we're going to take a quick break. When we return, Terry, I just want us to talk about why are the workers still organized or unionized along racial lines? This is question time.
Ephraim defied family and traditions to follow her dream.
Decided that I'm going to prove to them that they were wrong.
The first breakthrough came in when she was studying and touring in Europe.
That was my first breakthrough.
Generations was her first television debut in South Africa.
It was my first gig. I was very excited. I was very happy. I said, yeah, this is confirmation I'm at the right place.
After pain, rejection, and suffering, her dream became a reality.
I followed my path, and I'm happy and grateful and blessed.
Join your host, Buleng Mulabati, on Bophelong every Friday at 17:30.
Welcome back. You're still watching Question Time. My guest today is Mamokgethi Molopyane. She's a Labour Analyst. And from our Sea Point studios, Terry Bell is also a Labour Analyst. Justice, you are in Kagiso. Welcome.
Yes, Mpho.
Hi.
Mpho?
Yes, Ndate.
Yes, Mpho, I just want to comment on this thing of different unions, man.
Yes.
Yeah, what I realize, Mpho, people, those people who run the union these days, they've been deployed, most of them, by the company at the top position.
Yes.
Then anyway, as the workers in the ground, when we look at that, we don't trust the union anymore because some of the unions, some of the management, once they saw the shop steward is a strong shop steward, they took him from the workers. They make him management, yes, or they put him in some of the position of the management to make sure those position of the workers, they don't have a shop steward anymore. That's why most of the workers, they live in the unions because they are no longer trust on the shop steward. Once you become shop steward, that means it was steps to go to the top position.
Okay, I get you, Justin. I think you're telling the truth in the sense that quite a lot of people, once you're a shop steward, management takes you, you get absorbed. But Terry, let's also talk about the fact that it is true. Workers are organized along racial lines. Why?
I don't think they are. None of the federations, well, no one could constitutionally have a racial constitution.
Yes. Go ahead.
With the exception perhaps of Solidarity, which took in the old Mijnwerkers Unie, which now has a non-racial constitution, actually has a few black members. That's the only union that I know of that's largely white, apart from perhaps those unions that have organized the managerial strata. And we're dealing with a historical legacy of apartheid, where most of the management level people were white. And so you might have that in for example, the PSA, but that's also non-racial. COSATU started out as a non-racial federation, and most of the unions within COSATU. But the majority of the population in South Africa working at the manual level and at lower levels of payment, etc., happen to be people from, let's say, historically disadvantaged communities, classified under apartheid as black, as colored, as Indian, etc. So I think we still are going to suffer from that legacy, and it's logical, obviously, that the majority of trade unionists are going to be not people who are very light in complexion.
Elliot, you are in Limpopo.
Thank you very much, Mpho. More difficult as it is currently, we do need a strong labor union. But it's very misleading to have a federation which divorces itself from politics. You see, the new baby on the block must affiliate to a certain political party, which will make it easier for them to bargain. Union must resort, and union members do resort to use us as law practitioners because of two reasons. Both one of the disconnect between the relationship between their shop stewards and the reality and the reality on the situation and efficiency of their shop steward. So I think it is very misleading for Vavi at this stage to say, yes, they do not want to affiliate or to be associated with a certain political party. But my problem is they will find it very, very difficult at the bargaining council and at the negotiating table because they do not have a long working relationship with a certain employer, which in this must be a political party.
Whoa, okay, that's quite a dimension.
Indeed. I mean, when you look at how the COSATU fell into the alliance or came to be in the alliance, ideally was for them to be able to influence the battles that they would have won on the ground, that they would have won through the strike, be able to influence that at a policy level when policies are being formulated and implemented. And perhaps it raises that caller, raises the question that if the new federation comes about, how will, even if it wins arguments at a worker level, it can always be blocked or impacted on by those who would have decided on policy and legislature. And I think in the South African context, it's hard for trade unions to be apolitical and not have an involvement in the politics because of the history and nature of how trade unions came to be, but also their involvement in the struggle, but also in linking. Remember, workers' issues are not in isolation. They are always linked with societal issues. So ideally, a trade union or a federation must link its issues also with societal issues.
But no trade union. May I come in there?
Oh, just hold a sec there, Terry. Terry, just hold a sec. Let me take Ruambo. Ruambo, you are in Limpopo. Ruambo?
Good evening.
Hey, look over.
First of all, let's get one thing straight.
Yes.
Unions, they are just business. They are making money also. One wonders when they say labor brokers, they are wrong, they are taking money from the workers, but they are also doing seemingly the same of taking from the workers. Number two, if you had to look at it in a more polite way, you will take a note that if COSATU has got more than 2 million members, and they are deducting 50 rand or 60 rand monthly, that will give you, mathematically, it will give you figures of millions and millions in a month. Yes. Where do they take those money to? They invest to the same people, they call them capitalists. So, I mean, they are just brutal capitalists in disguise. There's no such thing called they are holy. They are just making money. It's business. Thank you.
Okay. Terry?
That caller was spot on. This is one of the biggest problems that we have, and that is the fact that there's been a lack of accountability, and the business of business should remain with business. The business of trade unions is to organize workers as workers, irrespective of color, class, caste, gender, religion, or political affiliation. That does not mean that unions are apolitical. They are, of course, involved in societal issues at all times, and these are political. But there's a difference between being political and being party political or partisan, and that is the problem. And one of the biggest issues, I think, that has created problems is this financial thing of unions getting involved with investment companies, which they claim are at arm's length, but in fact, they're not really. And you don't have a situation as existed in some of the unions in the 80s, where, for example, every elected office bearer was accountable to the members, was completely answerable to the members, recallable by them, and it was the members who actually decided on their remuneration, how much they would be paid, and what their benefit should be. Perhaps we should go back to where we started with modern unionism in South Africa.
The lack of unionized workers takes me, perhaps as we conclude, to the fact that you've got so many workers who are not unionized. Your waitresses and waiters in all these restaurants, in farms all over the country, in as much as there are farmers' unions. But you also have those workers who are working here probably illegally. How do we go about that?
There has been a challenge in our unions in how innovative they become in attracting new members, but also in going to sectors that are not predominantly seen as the shining stars of our industries, as in manufacturing, as in auto industry or mining. And that has been overall their shortcoming, because it has led them to be able to fail to look at, for example, the retail sector is one of the largest in South Africa, continues to employ people people at a temporary level, some of them employed through labor broking. But we have seen that unions representing workers in that industry have struggled to grow, have struggled to attract workers. And it speaks to a bigger issue of unions being not visible to the workers, not speaking a language that attracts workers. And that is the challenge.
But now, who will speak for those Zimbabwean waitresses and Zimbabwean farmers?
Ideally, it should be South Africa. It should be unions in the industry that they are working on. But we have failed to see unions tapping into that area, and they do so because they are hesitant to be able to go face to face with policymakers.
Let me thank you for the time, my Labour Analyst. Thank you very much, Terry. That was Question Time for today. A big thank you to my guests and to you for watching the show. You have yourself a wonderful time. Goodbye.